r/Nosleep. Posted by u/bash_time. I'm a pizza delivery driver. Yes, it is true we see quite crazy things on the job. Delivering pizza has always been a fun job for me. I get to meet everyone in the town I live on the outskirts of. The pay is alright, but the tips make the job more than survivable for a high school student. Sure, I could spend the weekends partying, but from a young age I decided I wanted to get out of this town, and the only way I was going to be able to do that was early age saving. When I got my permit license, I immediately decided to hop in the local pizza joint in town that said hiring today. That Saturday I took home $150 in tips. Much better than hanging out with the douchebag jocks at school anyways. Kino's Pizza has been my home on Saturdays and Sundays for the past 4 years. This summer would be my last year there before I packed up and left town. I was nervous, excited, but even more so, happy to take on any shifts I could before the fall came around. Most days were busy. Our pizza was so good I could understand why I was out of the store delivering pizzas more often than inside waiting to do my menial tasks for the night. Well, every once in a blue moon the store would slow down. I'd wash dishes, help carry out orders, but mostly surf Reddit waiting for the next address to pop up for me to head to. The next delivery came in and I waited for it to be done. Chatting with the cute girl at the register before heading out. Once on the road I started to play my music, unknowing to me my life was about to change forever. I saw a man on the side of the road with his thumb stuck out. Mom and Dad always told me to keep driving past hitchhikers, but for some reason, maybe because of how slow the store was and dreading going back and waiting for another delivery, I pulled over. The man was dressed well. Almost as if he had just came from a fancy event. I couldn't figure out why someone who looked like this was hitchhiking, but I was unbothered. I thought of my future adventures leaving this town and in a way envied the freedom of this man. The pizza was in the front seat still, steaming in the hot bag, so I popped open the back door. He thanked me softly and stepped in the back of my car. Heading anywhere specific? The man smiled and said, 24 Meadow Ave. How convenient. I thought. That's a few blocks away from where I'm delivering this pizza. Of course I brought the food to the customer first, but then we made our way to 24 Meadow Avenue. I haven't seen you before, are you visiting family? His eyes met mine in the rearview window. No. It was kind of an awkward silence for the next couple blocks. I let him out and went back to the store. I was happy to have my fun little excursion because when I got back there were still no other deliveries up. I just told them I had to grab some gas. The next day I woke up to my mother and father making quite the commotion in the living room. I went downstairs to see my mother and father looking quite timid. There had been a homicide at 24 Meadow Avenue. Chills went down my spine as I realized that I had been there last night with that hitchhiker. Of course no one knew this, but my parents were shaken up. There hadn't been a murder in the town for over a decade. People weren't used to this in such a peaceful town. The police said they had no leads but they were still investigating. A whole family had been murdered and I knew about it. I feared telling anyone because what if they thought I was a part of it? I figured they'll eventually catch the man and that'll be it. No harm no foul. If I didn't bring him there someone else would. A few weeks went by and the cops had marked it up as a drifter rolling through town. I hoped so too. Then came along another slow day. Almost like clockwork the man was alongside the road. He wore the same suit as last time. There was no blood on it though? Maybe it wasn't him after all and it was just a coincidence. My morbid curiosity got the best of me. I pulled over, he got in the back, just like last time. Did you do it? He said nothing. Except for another address. The same smile crept across his face just like last time. Fearful for my life, I drove him there. I'm sorry maybe it seems wrong to you, but I was too young to die. After all, why would I have worked at Kino's Pizza the last 4 years if it was just to die working at Kino's Pizza? I barely slept that night thinking of what brutal murder I would see on the TV the next day. Of course, I was right. In fact this time the news reporter announced. The police found an interesting clue to these heinous crimes. She looked like she could barely read the next part. Carved into the bodies was the words "thank you" all over them. I knew this man, this psychopath, was fucking thanking me. It took me about a month to feel normal again and by then it was August. Kino, the owner, had asked me to pick up some more shifts and I agreed. Some employees had quit in fear of the local murders. I felt a little more safe than the rest. Fuck it. More money to get far away from this town and these awful memories. You can imagine at some point with all these extra shifts adding up I would see another slow day at work. I did. I knew I would see him again. I planned on just driving by him this time, hoping he would just leave me alone and appreciate how I have already helped him in 2 awful crimes. Sure enough, as I was taking my next delivery, there he was. I sped up quickly as I passed him, holding my breath praying he didn't notice it was me. I delivered the pizza to the house, and decided to take a different way back to the store. I almost hit him when he was standing in the middle of the road. I'm sure most people would have laid their foot on the pedal, but then what? I tell the police this guy was the murderer the whole time? That I hid the truth from them? That I helped him drive there? My car squealed to a stop right in front of him, all while he held his composure. He stepped toward the driver's side. He's going to kill me for not stopping. Why didn't I just let him in and continue with denial it was him? How will he murder me? He knocked on my windshield, smiling his usual bone-chilling smile. I cracked the window just enough for him to press his lips up to the window. He hissed, "You can pick the address this time." I don't know what came over me. I don't know if it was because I thought I didn't have a choice or if I am truly this evil. Maybe both. Earlier that year, one of my teachers barely passed me. He was an asshole. I didn't want him to die over it, but I couldn't think of a better option. Tomorrow he'd be gone, and no one would know I was the reason why. The man started showing up more often, even on busier days. Sometimes he would say an address, and other times he would smile and say, "You pick." This went on all through August. We actually made some small conversation from time to time. Actually, let me rephrase that, I would talk and he would listen. I guess I did it to break the awkward silence. I told him my plans of leaving at the end of the month. Somewhere new. Somewhere fresh. Somewhere better. The town was on borderline lockdown when it was about my time to go. I was one of the few workers left who felt comfortable working the nights. Some people called me crazy, they didn't even know how crazy I had become. That's when I picked him up one final time. I knew that, and I'm pretty sure he did too. I'm not going to lie, I was a little sad. We had killed so many school bullies, so many people that I wouldn't miss from this town. If I wasn't so dead set on leaving, I actually would have liked living in this reformed town. He looked a little somber as he sat in my back seat. He must know it's our last. "Hey buddy, maybe we both can pick one tonight? I'm not sure fully what you're capable of pulling off in one night." Though he looked sad, he firmly said no. A little disappointed, but for all that he's done for me, I guess it's only fair he gets to choose the last address. 1436 Pine Cove. That was my parents' address. I wouldn't. I can't let this happen to them. How could this man that felt like my friend now want to kill my family? I tried. I really did. I didn't want this for my family, but I really needed to leave. Their lives are lived out, right? We rolled off, to my last house I'd drive to before my new life began. Okay everyone. I've had time to type this out, I'm sorry it's been a little while. I know some of you are concerned. To the people that are disappointed in me for letting that man get to my family. There was no other choice. Well, maybe there was earlier on and I should have consulted you guys earlier. I didn't though, and it's something I have to live with. I think they would be happy for me leaving this town behind. It's never really been a bad place, but it's never been somewhere that really felt like home. At the same time, what's going on now isn't what I would call my new life. One day though, this will all be worth it. Please try to understand. I'll start where I left off. The man and I arrive at my house. I tried to hide the tears at first, but there was no point. He knows what he's about to do, and anyone can agree that no matter what, I still feel an unwelcoming amount of guilt. I wish he would have let me say goodbye to them. I think that would have made my travels much harder though. This would be the first time I stayed for one of his crimes. Usually, as you know, I would drop him off, and I would go and make the pizza delivery and hear about it in the news the next day. I simply stayed put in the car, hoping he wouldn't be too long, that he'd make it painless. Of course, I was wrong. I was probably sitting there for an hour before he came back out. To my surprise, the man had no blood on his suit. In fact, he was still looking sharp as ever. I don't know if the music in my car drowned out their screams and my cries, but I heard nothing. For the first time ever, the man in the suit said his goodbyes to me. He didn't seem glum anymore like when I first picked him up. He simply wished me good fortune on my travels, and that was it. He walked away from the crime scene, and once I couldn't see him anymore, I got out of my car. There was no way in hell I was going to be entering through the front door. There's two reasons. I wanted to avoid Prince at all costs, but I also didn't want to see how he had mutilated my loving family. I wanted to keep the memory of them untangled. Perfect. They always told me that I would grow up to be something great. I'm sad they won't be able to see it for themselves. I grabbed the ladder from the shed in the back and posted it up against the house. The window was unlocked. Thank God, I always forget to lock it. I hopped into my room for the last time. I grabbed what I could, and went on my way. I wish I had more guts than I do, because I would have taken any money in the house I could have found, but there was no way I was taking the risk of stumbling upon the new art the man in the suit had painted in my household. I got back in my car, looked at the house one more time before making my trek west. I'm not going to say where I wanted to go, and how far away from it I am, because I'm not sure if police will look at this. I want to make sure I can cover as much ground before they know what has happened. I made a grave mistake though. I never went back to Kino's. I never delivered the pizza. Like I always do after dropping the man off. This poor lady didn't get her food in over an hour. Of course she would call the store. Why didn't I think of that? I was already on my departure and I don't think that turning around would have bought me any extra time. Any minute now Kino would decide to call the police. Why wouldn't he? Maybe he'd wait until we close. It would only be a matter of time before they check my home to make sure I'm okay and safe from the murderer. That's when they wouldn't find my car, they wouldn't find me, but they would find the next and final clue to their murders in town. They would blame me. They've never seen or met the man in the suit for all I know. If anything, I'm the only person in town that has met him and stayed alive. Maybe they'd think I'm abducted by him, but that wasn't his style. Anyone who was home before would be dead. I doubt they'd believe that I was the lucky one. They'd think it's me and have no reason not to believe it. They'll see me as the psycho. Maybe that's just what I've become. The roads wind down some steep hills before I make it onto the highway. I think I am at least 5 hours ahead of any police. I keep thinking about the man in the suit and how he had wished me farewell. He never really did say goodbye. Just wished good fortune. I hope that I don't see him again. I want to leave the town in the past. I'll keep writing later, heading onto a main highway. I had to put the phone down while driving on the highway. I didn't need any excessive attention to myself, so I had to stop updating you guys for a while. I wish it got better. The road stretched on for a while before I decided to take a rest. I drank coffee for as long as I could, but now the exhaustion has taken over. I needed to rest. Fortunate for me, I had found a rest stop to relax. I always felt uncomfortable around truck drivers, so I intended to make my stay there short. A quick nap, grab some food, water, and coffee inside, and then my trek would continue. As I turned off the exit, I couldn't believe my eyes. It was him, the man in the suit. His thumb was out, and I knew what would happen if I didn't pick him up. He would just appear somewhere else, and likely much more angry. I rolled down the window. "What do you want? I did everything you asked of me. Let me live my own life now." He seemed displeased. I bet he understood my anger. "You are angry but not completely horrified as I expected you to be. Did you see what I left you in your house? You must have. How did you gather these belongings?" I explained my way up to my room. "Well, I guess we're going to have to turn back." They pulled a gun on me quicker than I could reach to put the car in drive. He sat in the car, and without any other choice I turned back to the town I never wanted to go back to. After some long drive where he sat smiling with the gun pointed at my head, I asked him why he was always smiling at me. "You will see soon. I have to say, you played a great part. I'm thankful we have spent such great time together, but it'll all be over soon." We pulled up to my house, and surprisingly there were no cops. I guess Kino wasn't all too worried after all. When we made our way in, I couldn't believe what I saw. This living room was no longer what I remembered it as. Blood-soaked couch and pentagrams everywhere. This wasn't like his other murders. This looked like a ritual was about to take place. I had fallen right into it. The man in the suit broke the silence. "I've been smiling because I'm about to be free to live my normal life again. You see, about 5 years ago I too picked up a hitchhiker. I brought her along to the horrific murder she committed. Eventually it led me right to the death of my parents too. The demon Jar Kuruk had taken me over. He wanted me. It seems after some time he gets bored with his servants and will prey on his new victim through his last. After tonight your possession will begin. You have about 24 hours before you wake up somewhere new. Hitchhiking. You can't stop it, don't try. Just listen to his whispers and hope he picks a new servant soon." With that he sliced my arm, and put his palm to the wound. Then he placed it on his forehead, and like that, he was gone. I don't have much time now, but I wanted to say if you can help me, please let me know. I guess I'll get out of this town, just not the way I wanted.